So first we're going to go over the grip. The grip we use is the Garfield Grip. It's probably the most common grip. Okay, so the way to get into the Garfield Grip is you're going to have the strap sticking straight up. You're going to put your whole hand through the strip, stop at the wrist. You're going to turn your hand over completely. And then just rotate your hand and put the strap between your thumb and your pointer finger. So with the strap itself, when you're right here, you want the strap to be as tight as possible. With it being comfortable to you, it's going to be different for most people. But basically, you want there to be very little space when you hold it straight out between your hand and the pad. And when you're holding the cymbal in this grip, you want to spread your fingers out as much as possible and make as much contact with the cymbal as possible. This will allow you to have a lot more control when you're doing visuals and playing. What we're going to go over is our set position. So our set position, usually right at our hips, the bells are right at our hips. We have about 1 inch between our bodies and the cymbals. Our elbows are going to be pulled slightly back and bent. You want a big, strong presence when you're at this position. This is usually the position we start from when we're beginning reps or when we're just practicing in general. We'll always be at the set position, and we march a lot in this position when we're not doing anything. So the main part about this position is you want your cymbals not to be, different heights. You want them both to be bells right at hip level, and you don't want them to be flaring in or out. When you see this position from the front, you should see the edges of the cymbal, the blades. It should be just the blade of the cymbal the entire time. Okay, the next position we're going to go over is our vertical position. So our vertical position is right in front of your face. You want the bells and knots at eye level. You want 2 finger spacing between your cymbals. And an important part about this is you want your hand pointing straight up. You don't want to bend your wrist or anything. You want your hands pointed straight up. You want your biceps right here. You want them parallel to the ground. And you do this to adjust for your knot height level. So I bring it up, and then I can bring this out, and now they're eye level. Another big thing about this is you want to make sure that your cymbals are 2 fingers apart. That's a big thing, and you want to make sure your cymbals aren't flaring in and out like this. It's not going to look like your cymbals are straight when you're doing this from this side, but from the observer's perspective, it's going to look like you get that blade action like we did in the set position. Okay, the next position is our flat position. Basically, what we're going to do is we're just going to take the vertical position, drop it straight down to where the bells and the knots is right as our chest, and then turn the cymbals at a 45-degree angle. The top part's going to be to the left, and the bottom part's going to be to the right. And the easiest way to think about this is a seatbelt, driver's side seatbelt, comes straight from your shoulder to your hip. That's the same angle we have with these cymbals. We still have the same 2-finger spacing between the cymbals. You want them not too far out from your body and not too far in. You want about 1.5 fists between your chest and the edge of the cymbal. For your hands aren't going to be perfectly parallel. It's going to be kind of like you're clasping them together at this position. You want to make sure your wrists aren't cocking out in any way. You want straight hands and elbows out, strong presence. Okay, so now we're going to go over the vertical flip. Most of the time, vertical flip, we go from set to vertical. So for this, the main thing is we have our set position here with our elbow cocked back. We want to keep that same arm shape and literally just bring the cymbal up to set. But in the middle of it, we're just going to add a wrist rotation so we get that flip. But the arm's going to stay in the same path and not move the entire time. It's all wrist. It's no arm, no elbow. We don't want no elbow out here when we do that. We want the elbow to stay in the same spot, and we just want the wrist to do all the work. The way we do the flip is we bring the cymbal up, and we push with the thumb and pull with the pinky, up and around, and then let the cymbal do the rest of the work, and finish out the rotation with the help of the momentum that we create by pulling up. And then here it is slow again. The arm's not moving. And what we want to do is we want to work up and get that flip as fast as possible. Main thing when you're doing the fast flips is you want a quick initiation. And when you stop, you want all the momentum to stop at one time. You don't want to stop and then move around up here. You want a quick stop. When you're doing these flips, work on a 2-finger space. When you're coming here, it's all about the 2-finger space. Keeping that same distance, and then stopping at the 2-finger space. So you get that quick flip. Okay, so now we're going to flip up from set to our flat position. It's the same flip up from vert, except the pathway is a little bit different. Instead of going all the way up, we just stop at the chest, and we're going to have to, angle our hand. So the pathway is the same way. Arm's not moving. You're just turning your hand slightly to get that angle, and the same thing with the left hand, except you're turning the other way. Same pathway, your arm's doing the same thing. So for this one, we're going to keep that same 2-finger spacing when we come up. Still pushing with the thumb, pulling with the pinky. And when we come up, we're going to flash in the front, like we do with the other one. But the main thing about this is when you get about to here, you're going to think of pushing the cymbals together to get to flat here. It's a little different from vert. So the main thing is 2-finger spacing, elbows not coming out when we do the flips. We want a strong elbows and arms all the way up. It's going to go like that. Slow flip, maintaining the 2-finger spacing. And then the fast, same thing. You want to stop quick and you want to start quick. Okay, so now we're going to work on our down flips. We're going to start at vert. So pathway is the same as the up flip, just backwards. The arm and the elbow don't do anything. It's all wrist. It just comes straight down. Straight from vert down to set. So this is an out flip. We did in flips on the way up. We're going to do out flips on the way down. Instead of pushing with the thumb and pulling with the pinky, we're going to push with the pinky and pull with the thumb. So we're going to bring the cymbal down to start the flip. When we get about to sternum level, we're going to push with the pinky, pull with the thumb, and finish the flip. You can think of it as kind of as a whip to use gravity to help you. So you're just going to pull it down and whip it back in. Hardest part about this flip is stopping right at the set position. A lot of people want to either go too far or stop too soon or end at a weird angle. You want to just down, initiate, flip, stop, and lock. So slow, it's going to look like this. Remember to keep that 2-finger spacing throughout the entire flip. Down, out, in. And fast, it's going to look like more of a whip. Okay, so now we're going to flip down from our flat position. There's 2 flips that we do. One is just like vert. We're just going to do 2 out flips with the cymbals. So we start it flat, and then just push with the pinky, pull with the thumb on both cymbals, and just bring them down. Simple enough. The next flip, it's a little more difficult. It's called a Sones flip, or a can opener. There's a lot of different names for it. But the way we do this flip is, it's the same for the right hand. It's just a straight down flip into set. But for the left hand, we're going to do an up flip, like when we go up to vert or up to set, but we're going to bring it down. So the biggest thing to think is you want the flip of an up flip, but the pathway of a down flip. So your arm's still going to do the same thing, come from flat to set. You're just going to add an up flip with your wrist. So when you put it together, looks like this. Biggest thing about this flip is a lot of people tend to end one hand before the other because you're doing 2 different things. So you want to focus on flipping at the same time and locking at the same time. That's the biggest thing with this flip. Maintaining the strong arms, the arm pathway, and the rotation, and locking at the same time. Okay, so now we're going to talk about going from vertical to flat and flat to vertical. So the way we go from vert to flat is the same way we go from flat to set. We're going to do that Sones flip. So it's going to be a down flip with the right hand. You're going to end in that flat position. The easiest way to think about this is to think about throwing the cymbal out of your hand, but not, of course, and then just twisting your wrist and flicking that cymbal into that spot. And then with the left hand, you're going to do an up flip. And just pull the cymbal down. You're going to start the flip and then pull it down. So at the same time, it's going to look like that. Biggest thing again is wanting to end one hand before the other and get one of these going. But you want to work on ending them at the same time and taking the same pathway with both hands. And from flat to vert, it's the same, it's just 2 end flips. Bring both the cymbals up and close them together. 2 finger spacing throughout. Okay, so now we're going to go over vertical crashes. So we're going to go up to vert position, and the first position of the prep for the vert crash is the A. So all we're going to do is we're going to keep the 2 finger spacing at the top of the cymbals and pull the bottom of the cymbals away and lock at a 45-degree angle. Biggest thing is to make sure we're not moving the height or the width. We're just literally pulling and changing the width of the bottom and not the top. The tops are going to stay. It's like opening a door hinge and lock. The next position is we're going to take this A and we're just going to invert it. So we're just going to turn our hands and stop at the V. Another big thing with this is we don't want our cymbals to be flaring out or in. We want to keep those edges aligned. It's not going to look like, see, this looks like it's lined up to me, but it's probably flared out to you. So we want to keep it a little more in than you think to get that to get those blades. 2 finger spacing on the bottom. The knots do not change position when we're going from A to B. They just flip in. And then the last position is the actual crash. So what we're going to do is when we crash, we're going to bring our cymbals together and we're going to make contact a little bit displaced right into left so we can get that full rotation when you're crashing the cymbals. So you're going to bring them in, make your contact, follow through, pull in, out, come out back to an A, back to a V, and then back to set. And I'll give you the count structure for that here in a sec. So slow, just going through it, it's A, V, set. Okay, so the counts for this is we're going to go AV crash, AV set. So without crashing, it's AV crash, AV set. The A isn't really a lock, it's more of a pull from the crash. So the full thing is with the crash. You can even think about it as AV pull and set. It's an easy way to think about it. AV pull and set. So the next crash is our flat crash. The way we do the flat crash is it's a lot simpler than the vertical crash. So what we're going to do is we're just going to, for the prep, is we're going to hinge in the front of our cymbals. So we're not going to pull back. We're just going to pull them apart and get a small little prep in. You want the back of your left cymbal to touch your hand, to touch your forearm, I mean. And you just want to pull them apart a little bit. So it's very poppy. This one doesn't really have to touch. It might for some people. It's just depending on how long your arms are. But it's not a huge prep. It's not a pullback prep. It's a nice, small, little, easy prep. And when we do the crash, we're going to bring the right cymbal into the left. We're going to make a contact, displaced about 1 inch from the edge of the cymbal. And we're going to do nothing with the left hand. The right hand's going to do all the work. We're just going to push the right hand through the left. And the backs are going to make that flam that we want. And then we pull back in. So the whole crash is just Okay, so now we're going to go over our crash chokes. So for the vertical crash choke, it's same prep at the beginning, A, V, but this time when we crash, we're going to crash, bring our cymbals out, and then pull them into our chest. Basically, you want to do the little fleshy part in between your shoulder and your chest muscles here. And it looks really relaxed. It's a very lazy look to it. My arms are resting on the cymbals. All my fingers are on the cymbals to try to choke the sound completely. You might hurt yourself, but you'll just have to get used to it. So the full thing is a... Main part is to get your arms and your fingers to deaden as much of the cymbal sound as you possibly can. And for the flat choke, it's a little different. It's the same prep. You're going to crash to the cymbal, but immediately when you crash, you're going to pull the cymbals into your chest. And the biggest thing here is you want your arms again on the cymbals if you can get them there. Some people can't because their arms are too long. But you want the top of the cymbals right in the middle of your chest, and you want the tips of your cymbals 2 finger space. So, and you don't want them above or even. You want to make sure you get as much contact with the edge of the cymbals possible to choke all the sound off. You got to really slam them into your chest if you want all that sound to end immediately.